Beneath the manicured lawns and grand statues of Vienna, Prague, and beyond, lie secrets whispered by centuries of imperial desire. The Habsburgs, rulers of a vast empire, didn't just build palaces, they sculpted nature itself into monumental playgrounds of power, passion, and sometimes peculiar obsessions. Forget your average backyard. These were living, breathing spectacles designed to awe, entertain, and control. And some of their most elaborate creations hide stories so wild, they'll make you wonder what truly went on behind those towering garden walls. Number 8. A royal playground of scientific wonder, Schönbrunn Palace Gardens. The air around Schönbrunn Palace in Vienna, a place so grand it almost feels like a small city, always carries the ghost of Empress Maria Theresia. It was her vision, her relentless drive, that transformed a modest hunting lodge and its grounds into the sprawling, magnificent Baroque masterpiece we see today. From the middle of the 18th century, Maria Theresia poured her heart and the empire's vast wealth into this project, not just to create a beautiful home, but to build a powerful statement of her rule and the Habsburg legacy. She wanted a garden that would rival the famed Versailles, a place where nature itself bowed to imperial will and intellect. The story of Schönbrunn's gardens is a tale of ambition, a thirst for knowledge, and an unwavering commitment to grandeur. Maria Theresia, a woman of formidable character, spent countless hours overseeing the garden's design. She often walked the grounds, giving instructions, making changes, and ensuring every detail met her exacting standards. She brought in some of the finest landscape architects of her time, including Jean Trichet, a master of French Baroque style. Trichet laid out the broad avenues, the geometric parterres, and the grand axes that still define the garden today. His designs created an illusion of infinite space, drawing the eye from the palace across carefully sculpted lawns, through meticulously trimmed hedges, and towards distant striking landmarks. The great parterre directly in front of the palace became a dazzling carpet of flowers, and intricate patterns changed with the seasons, a living tapestry that announced the arrival of spring, summer, or autumn with vibrant color and fragrant blooms. Thousands of gardeners toiled tirelessly to maintain this perfection, planting, pruning, and watering under the watchful eyes of their supervisors. One of the garden's most captivating features, the Neptune fountain, was more than just a water display. It was a dramatic narrative in stone, carved by the sculptor Johann Christian Wilhelm Bayer. It depicts the god of the sea, Neptune, surrounded by mythical creatures seemingly taming the wild forces of nature with his trident. Water cascades over rocks, splashes into large basins, and dances in the sunlight. The sheer scale of the fountain, with its powerful figures and dynamic composition, made visitors gasp, a clear testament to the Empress's vast resources and the artistic prowess she commanded. It became a popular meeting spot, a place where courtiers would stroll and admire the intricate craftsmanship, all while the sound of rushing water filled the air. Perched atop the Schönbrunn hill, overlooking the entire garden and the city beyond, stands the Gloriette. This monumental colonnaded structure was not just an ornamental folly. It served as a dining hall, a breakfast room, and a viewing platform. From its elevated position, Maria Theresia and her guests could survey their domain, from the distant Vienna woods to the city's spires, a panoramic vista that truly conveyed the scope of the empire. Accounts from court historians describe lavish breakfasts held within its arches, with musicians playing and the morning sun glinting off silver platters. The Gloriette's construction was a massive undertaking, requiring vast amounts of stone and an army of laborers who carefully transported materials up the steep incline. Beyond the formal Baroque splendor, Maria Theresia nurtured a deep passion for natural history and science. This led to the creation of one of the world's oldest continuously operating zoos, the Tiergarten Schönbrunn. Established in 1752, it began as a menagerie for exotic animals. a collection of curious creatures brought from distant lands to entertain and educate the imperial family and their guests. Lions, elephants, and monkeys, rarely seen in Europe, became residents in grand enclosures, fascinating the public and contributing to early scientific study. Her son, Emperor Joseph II, later opened the menagerie to the public, transforming a private royal collection into an accessible wonder. The collection expanded over centuries, bringing new species and new knowledge to the heart of Vienna. The gardens also boasted a magnificent orangery, a vast heated greenhouse where delicate citrus trees, palms, and other exotic plants spent the cold Austrian winters. In summer, these plants were moved outside to adorn the parterres, filling the air with the scent of orange blossoms and lemon flowers. The orangery was not merely a storage facility, it was a symbol of Habsburg wealth and the ability to cultivate plants from warmer climes, demonstrating mastery over nature itself. Court records detail the elaborate processes of moving these heavy potted trees, a Herculean task requiring dozens of workers and specialized equipment. Even a Roman ruin designed to look like ancient remnants found its place in the Schönbrunn Gardens. This artificial ruin, complete with moss-covered stones and crumbling arches, spoke to the Habsburg connection to the Holy Roman Empire and their appreciation for classical antiquity. It offered a picturesque backdrop for quiet contemplation, a stark contrast to the lively Baroque symmetry. Elsewhere, it was a place where one could wander and imagine ancient philosophers or poets, a deliberate nod to a glorious past. The gardens of Schönbrunn, from their formal geometry to their scientific collections, became a living testament to Maria Theresia's reign. They were a setting for grand celebrations, diplomatic receptions, and intimate family moments. Her children, including the future Emperor Joseph II and the ill-fated Marie Antoinette, spent their childhoods exploring its pathways, playing among its statues, and learning about the world from its diverse plant and animal collections. It was a place of power, beauty, and quiet domesticity, forever marked by the empress who brought it to life. Number 7. The grand terraces of Maria Theresia's retreat. Schloss Hof. Schloss Hof, nestled in the picturesque landscape of Lower Austria, tells a captivating story of a garden transformed by imperial ambition. While its initial grandeur owed much to Prince Eugene of Savoy, one of Europe's most brilliant military strategists and art collectors, it was Maria Theresia who truly stamped her imperial mark upon its extensive grounds. In 1755, the Empress, ever keen to expand her family's prestige and land holdings, purchased Schloss Hof after Prince Eugene's death. She saw the potential in its sprawling estate and immediately set about making it a summer retreat, worthy of the Habsburg dynasty. The garden's transformation under her patronage was a colossal undertaking, a testament to her vision for a perfectly ordered, magnificently grand Baroque landscape. Prince Eugene had already laid the foundation for a spectacular Baroque garden, employing the architect Johann Lucas von Hildebrand to design the tiered terraces that descended from the palace. But Maria Theresia, with her characteristic meticulousness, intensified the development, ensuring that Schloss Hof became a showcase for the latest horticultural trends and a dazzling stage for courtly life. She brought in her own team of gardeners and designers, many of whom also worked at Schönbrunn to refine and expand upon Eugene's initial plans. The goal was to create a harmonious blend of architecture and nature, where every path, every fountain, and every plant served a purpose in the grand imperial design. The most striking feature of Schloss Hof's gardens is its magnificent series of 7 terraced parterres, each one descending gracefully from the palace to the distant March River. These terraces were not just aesthetically pleasing, they were engineering marvels of their time. Each level was meticulously leveled and supported by robust retaining walls, creating vast flat surfaces for intricate floral patterns. geometric hedges, and dazzling fountains. The uppermost terraces closest to the palace were the most formal, adorned with elaborate broderie parterres, swirling patterns created with low-clipped boxwood, hedges filled with brightly colored gravel, and seasonal flowers. These were designed to be viewed from the palace windows, appearing as an intricate living carpet. As one descended through the terraces, the formality gradually gave way to a more playful and diverse landscape. The second terrace often featured vibrant flower beds arranged in precise symmetrical designs, bursting with color during the warmer months. Imagine walking down wide stone steps, the air perfumed with roses and lavender, with the sound of cascading water growing louder with each level. The attention to detail was astonishing. Records show that thousands of plants were ordered annually from imperial nurseries to maintain the pristine appearance of these flower beds. Gardeners spent countless hours tending to each individual bloom, ensuring perfection for the empress's gaze. Further down, the terraces often incorporated large ornate fountains, each with its own unique sculptural group. Water played a crucial role in the Baroque garden, symbolizing power, motion, and the triumph of human ingenuity over nature. The main cascade, a series of smaller waterfalls and basins, guided the eye and the ear down towards the lower levels. These fountains were fed by an elaborate system of pipes and pumps, a testament to the advanced hydraulic engineering of the era. Visitors in the 18th century would have been mesmerized by the sparkling jets and the gentle roar of the water. The lower terraces were often dedicated to more practical, yet still beautiful features, such as kitchen gardens, fruit orchards, and even areas for exotic animals. Maria Theresia, like many rulers of her time, had a keen interest in natural history. The gardens included orangery houses, where citrus trees and other tender plants were nurtured through the cold Austrian winters, brought out into the open air to adorn the terraces during summer. Historical accounts mention peacocks strutting across the lawns and deer grazing in distant enclosures, adding to the picturesque charm and highlighting the imperial family's ability to command diverse elements of nature. Schloss Hof also boasted a charming grotto, a cave-like structure adorned with shells, stones, and sometimes even artificial stalactites. These grottos provided a cool, shaded retreat from the summer sun, and were often equipped with playful water tricks designed to surprise unsuspecting visitors. A hidden jet of water might suddenly spray from a seemingly innocuous rock, eliciting shrieks of laughter from the imperial children. Such whimsical elements were common in Baroque gardens, demonstrating a lighter, more entertaining side to the imperial pursuit of grandeur. Maria Theresia often used Schloss Hof as a summer residence and a venue for grand hunting parties and diplomatic gatherings. The vast garden provided ample space for parades, horseback riding, and evening strolls. Imagine the empress, perhaps, with her children, walking among the perfectly manicured hedges, discussing matters of state, or simply enjoying the tranquility of her magnificent creation. The garden was not just a place of beauty. It was a living stage for imperial life, where power was subtly displayed through the meticulous control of nature. Even after Maria Theresia's time, Schloss Hof continued to evolve. Her successors, including her grandson, Emperor Francis II, occasionally used the palace, while it never regained the intensity of its Maria Theresian era. As an imperial residence, the core of its magnificent Baroque gardens, those 7 descending terraces, remained a lasting legacy of her vision. The extensive restoration efforts in recent decades have brought much of its original splendor back to life, allowing modern visitors to experience a glimpse into the lavish world of the Habsburg court and the extraordinary efforts taken to sculpt nature into an imperial masterpiece. Picture. Number 6. A Renaissance oasis of whimsy and wonder. Ambras Castle Park. Perched high above Innsbruck, Austria, Ambras Castle and its surrounding park offer a fascinating glimpse into the world of Archduke Ferdinand II of Tyrol. This was not a garden built for grand Baroque statements of absolute power, but rather a more intimate, scholarly, and wonderfully eccentric Renaissance retreat. Ferdinand II, who ruled Tyrol from 1564 to 1595, was a man of intense curiosity, a passionate collector of art, arms, and natural wonders. His garden at Ambras was a direct reflection of his unique personality and his Renaissance fascination with the intersection of art, nature, and human ingenuity. Unlike the sweeping, formal Baroque designs that would dominate later centuries, Ambras Park retained a more natural, almost wild beauty, interspersed with carefully planned wonders. Ferdinand's ambition for his garden was less about imposing geometric order and more about creating a picturesque landscape filled with fascinating discoveries, a cabinet of curiosities extended into nature. He sought out the unusual, the exotic, and the ingenious, making the garden a place of both contemplation and entertainment. It was a place where one could wander and encounter unexpected delights at every turn. One of the most remarkable features of Ambras Park was its elaborate grottos. These artificial caves, often built into natural rock formations, were designed to mimic wild caverns, but were adorned with intricate decorations of shells, crystals, and even rare minerals. Records show that he employed skilled craftsmen to create these wondrous grottos, often incorporating surprising water features. A hidden jet might spray from a stone, or a secret mechanism would cause water to flow dramatically over a series of cascades, creating a soothing sound that echoed through the cool, damp interior. These grottos were not just for show. They served as cool retreats during the summer months, offering a respite from the heat for the Archduke and his guests. They were places for quiet contemplation, perhaps even for secret meetings. Ferdinand also had a keen interest in zoology, and his garden housed a menagerie, a collection of exotic animals brought from distant lands. Accounts from the time speak of animals like lions, bears, and various exotic birds living in carefully constructed enclosures within the park. These creatures were not just for entertainment. They were subjects of scientific observation, reflecting the Renaissance era's burgeoning interest in the natural world. The Archduke would often stroll through the menagerie, observing his animals and showing them off to visiting dignitaries. It was a clear demonstration of his wealth and his ability to acquire rare and unusual specimens from across the globe. Water features were plentiful at Ambras, reflecting the Archduke's love for hydraulics and playful surprises. Beyond the grottos, there were elaborate fountains and cascades, designed to both beautify the landscape and provide entertainment. Some fountains were designed to activate only when approached, surprising visitors with sudden bursts of water. Others might play music or cause mechanical figures to move. These water jokes or follies were a popular pastime among Renaissance nobility, touting their ingenuity and their mastery of technology. Imagine a courtier walking along a path admiring the scenery, only to suddenly be splashed by a hidden jet from a nearby statue. Such moments added a layer of playful interaction to the garden experience. The gardens also included areas for formal cultivation, such as herb gardens and flower beds, though perhaps not on the grand scale of later Baroque designs. Ferdinand was known to be interested in medicinal plants and rare botanical specimens. His gardeners would meticulously cultivate these plants, often exchanging seeds and cuttings with other noble courts across Europe. This exchange of plants fostered a network of knowledge and curiosity, pushing the boundaries of what could be grown and sustained in different climates. One of the unique elements of Ambras was its Strodelbach, an artificial stream designed to simulate a wild mountain torrent. This engineering feat channeled water through a carefully constructed bed, complete with rocks and small rapids, creating the illusion of a natural, untamed river flowing through the cultivated park. It was a testament to the Archduke's desire to blend natural beauty with human artifice, creating a harmonious and surprising landscape. Visitors could walk alongside this wild stream, enjoying the sights and sounds of nature, even within the confines of the castle grounds. Ferdinand's collection of art and wonders extended into the garden itself. Statues, often depicting classical figures or mythical beasts, were strategically placed among the trees and along pathways, offering points of visual interest and encouraging contemplation. There were also smaller pavilions and arbors, providing shaded spots for rest and conversation. The Archduke would often use these quiet nooks for reading, writing, or simply enjoying the peaceful surroundings. The story of Ambras Castle Park is a testament to the individualistic spirit of the Renaissance. It was not built to conform to a universal pattern, but to serve the specific interests and passions of its creator. Archduke Ferdinand II created a garden that was both a private retreat and a public display of his intellectual curiosity and wealth. It was a place where art, nature, and science intertwined, offering a truly unique and enchanting experience for those fortunate enough to walk its paths. Even today, the spirit of Ferdinand's whimsical and wonderful vision can be felt among the grottos, the ancient trees, and the surprising echoes of rushing water at Ambras. Number 5. The Imperial Labyrinth of Prague Castle. Gardens of Rudolf II. High above the city of Prague, the gardens of Prague Castle whisper tales of imperial power, Renaissance curiosity, and the peculiar obsessions of Emperor Rudolf II. While the castle itself has seen many Habsburgs, it was under Rudolf II, Holy Roman Emperor and King of Bohemia, from 1576 to 1612, that the gardens reached an extraordinary peak of intellectual and artistic development. Rudolf was a man deeply immersed in the scientific and artistic currents of his age, a patron of astronomers like Tycho Brahe and Johannes Kepler, and a collector of unparalleled curiosity. His gardens were not merely decorative, they were an extension of his famous Kunstkammer, or Chamber of Artery, and a symbolic landscape reflecting his unique worldview. Rudolf's approach to gardening was far from conventional. He inherited gardens that had been established by his grandfather, Ferdinand I, who had brought Italian Renaissance garden design to Prague. Ferdinand had created the Royal Garden, a formal space with precise geometric layouts, a large fountain, and an orangery. But Rudolf, with his insatiable desire for knowledge and the esoteric, pushed these boundaries far beyond mere aesthetics. He sought out the rare, the exotic, and the scientifically intriguing, transforming the castle grounds into a vast open-air encyclopedia. One of the most famous features of Rudolf's gardens was the Lion Court, or Lion House. This was not just a simple menagerie, it was a grand enclosure designed to house a collection of exotic animals, including lions, tigers, and even an elephant. These magnificent creatures, brought from distant lands at great expense, were a symbol of the emperor's power and reach. Visitors from other European courts were often astonished by this collection, seeing animals they had only read about in books. The Lion Court was strategically located near the main castle entrance, ensuring that all who entered would witness this display of imperial might and exotic fascination. The roar of the lions would echo through the castle walls, a constant reminder of Rudolf's unique tastes. The gardens also boasted a magnificent Mikovna, or ball game hall, a grand Renaissance building with sgraffito decoration that served as an indoor tennis court. While not strictly a garden feature, its proximity and function as a leisure space for the emperor and his court made it an integral part of the garden's social life. The emperor himself was known to enjoy watching these games, and the hall became a hub of activity, particularly during inclement weather. Its elegant architecture blended passing with the surrounding greenery, providing a sophisticated backdrop for recreation. Perhaps the most iconic element of Ferdinand I's original garden that Rudolf continued to cherish and maintain was the Singing Fountain. Located in the royal garden, this bronze fountain, cast by Thomas Jaros in 1568 from designs by Francesco Terzio and Hans Pacer, was renowned for the unique bell-like sound its falling water made as it struck the bronze basins. It was said to sing in the wind. This innovative feature captivated all who heard it, combining artistic beauty with ingenious engineering. For Rudolph, such a marvel would have perfectly blended his love for art, science, and the subtly magical. It created a constant, melodic backdrop to the daily life of the court. Rudolph's passion for botany was legendary. He employed a succession of skilled gardeners and botanists, including the renowned Carolus Clusius, for a period, who was tasked with cultivating rare and exotic plants. The Imperial Gardens became a botanical laboratory filled with species brought from newly explored continents and distant corners of the empire. Tulips, then a novelty in Europe, were particularly prized, and Rudolph was among the first to establish extensive tulip beds in Prague. The gardens were ablaze with color during spring, trouting varieties of plants unseen elsewhere. He also maintained extensive herb gardens and a large orangery where tender plants like citrus and pomegranates were carefully protected during the harsh Bohemian winters. The scent of blooming oranges would occasionally drift through the palace windows. Beyond the formal arrangements, Rudolph's gardens were filled with curious and whimsical elements. Grottos, artificial caves, adorned with shells and strange stones, provided cool retreats, and sometimes housed hidden water tricks designed to surprise visitors. Mechanical figures that moved or made sounds driven by hidden hydraulic systems were also scattered throughout the grounds. These automata were the height of Renaissance technology, blending art, science, and a touch of theatrical magic. They were meant to impress and entertain, reflecting the emperor's deep interest in clockwork and ingenious mechanisms. The gardens were also a place for contemplation and the pursuit of knowledge. Rudolph would often stroll through the pathways lost in thought, discussing astronomy with Kepler or showing off a new botanical specimen to a visiting scholar. The layout of the garden itself, with its deliberate pathways and hidden nooks, encouraged quiet reflection and intellectual discourse. It was a place where the emperor could escape the burdens of state and immerse himself in his passions. The gardens of Prague Castle under Rudolph II were a unique blend of Renaissance artistry, scientific inquiry, and personal eccentricity. They were a vivid expression of the emperor's mind, a complex tapestry of beauty, wonder, and arcane knowledge. While the empire eventually turned away from Rudolph's reclusive and unconventional rule, his gardens remain a testament to a fascinating chapter in Habsburg history, a period when a sovereign's personal passions could trail wonders. Even today, walking through the royal garden, one can almost hear the soft splash of the singing fountain and imagine the curious emperor pondering the mysteries of the universe amidst his exotic plants. Number 4. A romantic escape built for empire's love story. Laxenburg Castle Park. Laxenburg Castle Park, located just south of Vienna, holds a special place in the hearts of the Habsburgs, particularly for Emperor Franz Joseph and Empress Elizabeth. Also known as Sisi, while the estate had been a Habsburg hunting retreat for centuries, acquiring its first documented mention in the 13th century and being developed by Empress Maria Theresia. In the 18th century, it was in the 19th century that it blossomed into a vast romantic landscape. This transformation, largely driven by Emperor Franz II, later Franz I, and later beloved by Franz Joseph and Sisi, marked a shift from strict Baroque formality to a more naturalistic era of burgeoning romanticism. Laxenburg became the couple's cherished retreat, a place where they could find solace and privacy amidst the pressures of imperial life. The decision to reshape the Baroque gardens into an English landscape park was a monumental undertaking that spanned decades. Gone were the rigid geometric patterns and clipped hedges. Instead, winding paths, meandering streams, and carefully placed clumps of trees created picturesque vistas and seemingly natural scenery. This style aimed to imitate nature, but a perfected, idealized version of nature. Lakes were dug, artificial islands created, and bridges constructed, all designed to evoke a sense of tranquil beauty and contemplative wandering. The sheer scale of the park, covering hundreds of acres, allowed for a vast array of moods and experiences. The heart of Luxembourg's romantic appeal is the Franzensberg, a medieval-style castle built on an island in the middle of a large artificial lake. This was not an ancient fortress, but a meticulously constructed folly, built between 1799 and 1836, using authentic medieval building materials and architectural fragments. It was envisioned as a living museum, touting the history of Austrian architecture and the Habsburg lineage. For Franz Joseph and Sisi, the Franzensberg became a beloved sanctuary. They would often row across the lake to spend time there away from the formalities of the court. Imagine Sisi, famed for her love of freedom and nature, rowing herself across the placid waters, her long hair flowing in the breeze, seeking refuge in this whimsical historic retreat. The lake itself was a central feature, inviting boat trips and offering beautiful reflections of the surrounding parkland. Its irregular shape, dotted with small islands and bridges, created an ever-changing panorama. In winter, when the lake froze over, it became a grand ice skating rink for the Imperial family and their guests, a scene of joy and laughter amid the frosty trees. Accounts from court diaries often mention the emperor and empress taking leisurely boat rides, sometimes alone, sometimes with their children, enjoying the quiet serenity that Luxembourg offered. Beyond the Franzensberg, the park was peppered with various follies and charming structures, each adding to the romantic atmosphere. There was a grotto, a cool artificial cave offering respite from the summer sun. A knight's tomb evoking medieval chivalry provided a melancholic point of reflection. A temple of Concord, classical in style, spoke to ideals of peace and harmony. These structures were not just decorative. They were designed to evoke specific emotions, to tell stories, and to encourage wanderers to pause and reflect on history, philosophy, or simply the beauty of their surroundings. Each turn of a path revealed a new surprise, a new picturesque view. The trees themselves were carefully caillouted, majestic oaks, graceful weeping willows along the water's edge, and groves of ancient beeches were planted and nurtured to create a sense of timelessness and natural grandeur. Pathways wound through these diverse arboreal landscapes, some leading to open meadows perfect for picnics, others delving into denser woods, creating a sense of delightful exploration. The changing seasons transformed the park from the vibrant greens of spring and summer to the fiery reds and golds of autumn and the serene snow-covered silence of winter. For Franz Joseph and Sisi, Luxembourg was more than just a garden. It was a deeply personal space. It was where they spent many early years of their marriage, where their children were born and played, and where they often found refuge from the strictures of court life. Sisi, who famously disliked the confinement of city palaces, found a deep connection with the freedom and natural beauty of Luxembourg. She would ride her horses for hours through the park's extensive network of riding trails, enjoying the solitude and the exhilaration of speed. Her enduring love for this place shaped its character, making it a true imperial haven. The park also served as a venue for private imperial celebrations and diplomatic entertaining, though on a more intimate scale than the grand spectacles at Schönbrunn. Picnics on the lawns, private theater, performances in one of the pavilions, or boat trips on the lake would have created a relaxed yet elegant atmosphere for distinguished guests. The Empress would sometimes organize elaborate outdoor games for her children and their young cousins, filling the expansive park with their joyful shouts and laughter. Even after Sisi's tragic death, Franz Joseph continued to visit Luxembourg, perhaps finding comfort in its familiar paths and the memories it held. The park today remains a living testament to a particular era of Habsburg history, one where nature was allowed to express itself more freely, though still guided by imperial hands. It tells a story of love, family, and the enduring human desire for a peaceful escape, even for those who ruled an empire. Walking through Laxenburg Castle Park, one can still feel the romantic spirit of a bygone era and imagine the emperor and empress finding their quiet moments amidst its carefully cultivated. Number 3. Vienna's oldest imperial stroll, the Augarten. The Augarten in Vienna holds a unique place among Habsburg gardens, not just for its age, but for its remarkable journey from an imperial hunting ground to a sophisticated Baroque pleasure garden, and finally, to a beloved public park. Its story begins long before the grand days of Maria Theresia, with its roots stretching back to the late 17th century when Emperor Leopold I, a man known for his deep piety and love of music, began to transform a wild riverside area into a more formal Recreated Feist. This marked the very beginning of its transition from untamed nature to a cultivated imperial domain. Leopold I commissioned the renowned garden architect Schönbrunn Schloss, who would later also work on Schönbrunn, to design the initial Baroque layout for the Augarten. Schloss laid out broad avenues and formal avenues, creating geometric patterns of trees and pathways that imposed order on the former wilderness. The intention was to create a space for leisurely walks, carriage rides, and perhaps occasional hunting for small game within its structured confines. This early design reflected the Baroque ideal of absolute control over nature, a clear statement of the emperor's power and ability to shape his environment. However, it was Maria Theresia, nearly a century later, who truly cemented the Augarten's status as a premier imperial garden and made a groundbreaking decision that changed its destiny. In 1775, with her characteristic foresight and a touch of progressive spirit, she officially opened the Augarten to the general public. This was a revolutionary act for its time. Most imperial gardens were strictly private, accessible only to the court and privileged guests. By opening the Augarten Maria Theresia provided a green oasis for all Viennese citizens, declaring in her own words, "These gardens are consecrated to all mankind." This act reflected her enlightened views and her desire to foster public well-being, even as she maintained the grandeur of her empire. The public flocked to the Augarten. It quickly became a popular spot for leisurely strolls, picnics, and social gatherings. Vienna's citizens from all walks of life could now experience a taste of imperial grandeur, walking the same paths once reserved for emperors and empresses. This made the Augarten a truly unique social space in Vienna, a place where different segments of society could mingle, if only in passing under the shared canopy of imperial trees. The design of the Augarten under Maria Theresia continued to feature the formal Baroque style. Long, straight avenues lined with chestnut trees provided shaded promenades perfect for a leisurely afternoon walk. Large open lawns offered space for games, or simply relaxing in the sun. Fountains, though perhaps not as elaborate as Schönbrunn's Neptune fountain, provided focal points and the soothing sound of water. The gardens were meticulously maintained by a large team of gardeners, ensuring that the public experienced the same high standards of imperial care. A significant feature of the Augarten was the Augarten porcelain manufactory, established in 1718. While not strictly part of the garden design, its presence within the park grounds underlined the imperial connection to arts and crafts. The delicate porcelain produced there, adored with exquisite hand-painted designs, often featured motifs inspired by nature, including flowers and birds, perhaps even those found within the very park it stood in. The manufactory became a symbol of Austrian craftsmanship and quality, and visitors to the park might have occasionally heard the quiet hum of its kilns. The Augarten also became a venue for concerts and public events. In the late 18th century, Mozart and Beethoven famously performed in the Augarten Palace, a charming Baroque building located within the park. Imagine the sounds of their masterpieces drifting through the open windows, carried on the breeze to the strolling crowds. These concerts brought culture to a wider audience, further cementing the Augarten's role as a vibrant public space for entertainment and enjoyment. Despite its public accessibility, the Augarten retained its imperial dignity. Its long straight avenues and carefully proportioned spaces continue to reflect the order and elegance of Baroque design. The trees, some of them centuries old, provided a sense of history and permanence. The park became a living chronicle of Vienna's social life, witnessing generations of families enjoying its beauty. The Augarten suffered significant damage during World War II, particularly from aerial bombings, as it housed anti-aircraft towers. However, efforts were made in the post-war period to restore its beauty and functionality. While some of its historic features were lost or altered, the spirit of Maria Theresia's vision for a public imperial garden endured. Today it remains a beloved green space in Vienna, a testament to an enlightened empress who believed that beauty, nature, and art should be accessible to all. Walking through the Augarten, one can still feel the echoes of its long history, from Leopold I's hunting grounds to Maria Theresia's public promenade, a unique blend of imperial grandeur and democratic openness. Number 2. The green heart of an empire's capital, Hofburg Palace Gardens. The Hofburg Palace, the sprawling urban heart of the Habsburg Empire in Vienna, wasn't just a collection of grand buildings. It was complemented by an array of magnificent gardens that evolved over centuries, reflecting the changing tastes and priorities of its imperial residents. Unlike a single grand garden like Schönbrunn, the Hofburg's green spaces were a mosaic of interconnected parks, each with its own history and character. The Berggarten, the Volksgarten, and the Heldenplatz, among others. These gardens were the empire's literal backyard, witnessing daily life, grand ceremonies, and quiet moments of contemplation for generations of Habsburg rulers, most notably Emperor Franz Joseph and his family. The Berggarten, or Castle Garden, was originally the emperor's private garden, a serene retreat directly adjacent to the imperial apartments. It was established in the early 19th century under Emperor Francis II, who later became Emperor Francis I of Austria after Napoleon's forces had caused considerable damage to the older imperial gardens. Francis II, a proponent of the English landscape style, sought to create a picturesque haven with winding paths, carefully placed trees, and naturalistic water features. This was a departure from the strict Baroque formality of earlier designs, reflecting a desire for more intimate and romantic outdoor spaces. Within the Berggarten, the Butterfly House, Schmetterlinghaus, stands as a delicate, beautiful example of imperial fascination with nature. While the current structure is early 20th century, the idea of cultivating and observing exotic flora and fauna was a long-standing Habsburg interest. Imagine Franz Joseph, after a long day of state affairs, taking a quiet stroll through this glass house, observing the vibrant colors of tropical butterflies, flitting a moment of peaceful escape within the very heart of his bustling capital. The sheer diversity of plant life and the careful control of the environment within such structures spoke to the empire's ability to command resources and knowledge from around the globe. Adjacent to the Berggarten lies the Volksgarten, or People's Garden, another significant green space that owes its existence to Emperor Francis II. After the demolition of city fortifications in the early 19th century, the emperor decided to create a public park, mirroring Maria Theresia's progressive spirit at the Augarten. Opened in 1823, the Volksgarten became an instant success. It offered a place for Viennese citizens to stroll, relax, and socialize. Its design, by Ludwig Remy, embraced a mix of formal and informal elements, providing both structured beauty and pleasant naturalistic areas. The Volksgarten is famous for its stunning rose garden, a fragrant explosion of color that draws visitors from all over the world, with thousands of rose bushes, representing countless varieties. It becomes a sensory delight, particularly in early summer. Emperor Franz Joseph and Empress Elizabeth, known for their morning walks, would often pass through this rose garden. One can easily picture Sisi with her love for beauty and nature, pausing to inhale the intoxicating scent of the blooms, perhaps even picking a single rose to wear in her famed hair. This garden was not just for the public. It was a constant source of beauty for the imperial family itself. Also within the Volksgarten stands the Theseus Temple, a smaller-scale replica of the Thesian in Athens, built between 1819 and 1823 by Peter von Nobili. It was originally intended to house Antonio Canova's sculpture of Theseus slaying the Minotaur, symbolizing the triumph of good over evil. This classical structure added a touch of ancient grandeur and philosophical contemplation to the public park, reflecting the Habsburgs' appreciation for classical art and their desire to elevate public taste. It became a popular meeting point, a place where people would gather and admire its timeless beauty. The Heldenplatz, or Heroes' Square, while primarily an open square used for parades and military displays, also serves as a vast green expanse connecting the Hofburg Palace with the Ringstrasse. Flanked by the majestic equestrian statues of Archduke Charles and Prince Eugene of Savoy, it is a space of imperial might and historical commemoration. While not a garden in the traditional sense, its manicured lawns and tree-lined edges provide a grand forecourt to the imperial residence. It was here that Franz Joseph would review his troops, and where grand public events would unfold with the green of the grass providing a natural carpet for the vast crowds. The constantly evolving nature of the Hofburg Gardens reflects the long reign of Emperor Franz Joseph. He saw the city of Vienna and its imperial spaces change dramatically during his nearly 68 years on the throne. The gardens were continuously maintained, occasionally redesigned, and always served as a vital green lung for the imperial city. They provided places for recreation, for quiet escape, and for grand public display. These interconnected gardens were not just backdrops to imperial life. They were integral to it. They witnessed generations of Habsburg children playing, royal visitors being entertained, and the daily rhythms of one of Europe's most powerful dynasties. They represent a unique blend of private solace and public generosity, a testament to the Habsburgs' enduring legacy in shaping the urban landscape of their beloved capital. Walking through the Hofburg Gardens today, one can still feel the echoes of their imperial past. A history woven into every pathway and every carefully cultivated tree. Number 1. Hungary's Imperial Dream. Kódoló Palace Garden. Kódoló Palace, located northeast of Budapest, holds a special significance in the Habsburg story, particularly for Empress Elizabeth Sisi and her husband Emperor Franz Joseph, while it served as a favored residence for generations of Hungarian nobility. It became an imperial retreat for the Habsburgs after it was given to Franz Joseph and Sisi as a coronation gift by the Hungarian nation in 1867. This gesture marked the Austro-Hungarian Compromise, creating the dual monarchy, and the palace became their beloved summer and autumn residence in Hungary, a place where Sisi especially felt a sense of freedom and belonging she often missed. The gardens of Kódoló are a reflection of this unique connection, a blend of traditional Baroque grandeur and the more naturalistic, freer style that Sisi adored. The palace itself was a sprawling Baroque complex, one of the largest in Hungary, and its gardens were equally extensive. Before the Habsburgs, the Grasalkovich family had already established a significant Baroque garden. But with the arrival of the imperial couple, the garden saw new life and development. Adapting to the tastes of the 19th century and the specific desires of the empress, Franz Joseph and Sisi would spend months at Kódoló each year, and the palace grounds became an extension of their private lives, a place for relaxation, exercise, and intimate moments away from the strictures of the Viennese court. Sisi's love for nature, horses and riding, greatly influenced the development of Kódoló's park. Unlike the more formal Baroque parterres of Schönbrunn, Kódoló's gardens increasingly embraced the English landscape style, which allowed for a more natural, flowing aesthetic. Winding paths replaced straight avenues, and groves of trees were interspersed with open meadows, creating a sense of serene wilderness perfect for horseback riding. Sissi would spend hours in the saddle, exploring the vast park, often alone or with a trusted companion, her long hair streaming behind her as she galloped through the Hungarian countryside. These rides were a vital escape for her, and the park's design accommodated her passion perfectly. The gardens featured several charming elements designed for leisure and enjoyment. There was a riding hall, a grand indoor arena where Sissi could practice her equestrian skills regardless of the weather. Adjacent to it were the Imperial stables, housing her beloved horses, including her famous Lipizaners. The sound of hooves on the ground, the scent of hay and horse leather, would have been a constant part of life at Godolo. The park also contained a delightful pavilion, often referred to as Sissi's Pavilion or the tea house, where the Empress would sometimes take her afternoon tea or meet with close friends in a more relaxed setting. It offered views across the picturesque landscape, providing a quiet retreat. Water played a role in the garden's beauty as well. While not as grand in scale as the fountains of Schönbrunn, there were smaller ponds and streams, adding a sense of tranquility and providing habitat for local wildlife. The natural springs in the area were sometimes harnessed to create charming cascades or to fill small, picturesque lakes that dotted the landscape, reflecting the surrounding trees and the ever-changing sky. These water features contributed to the overall serene and idyllic atmosphere. Godolo's gardens were also home to a significant number of exotic plants and a carefully cultivated arboretum. The milder climate of Hungary allowed for a wider variety of species to thrive outdoors, compared to Vienna. Gardeners painstakingly maintained the extensive lawns, flower beds, and tree groves, ensuring that the park remained a vibrant and beautiful environment throughout the seasons. In autumn, when the imperial family usually resided there, the park would have been ablaze with the fiery colors of changing leaves, creating a breathtaking panorama. For Franz Joseph, Godolo also offered a chance to escape some of the formality of court. While he still conducted state business, the atmosphere was generally more relaxed. He enjoyed walking the park paths, often with Sissi, discussing their children or the latest political developments. The park provided a setting for intimate family moments away from the prying eyes of the Viennese court. It was a place where their children, Archduchess Gisela and Crown Prince Rudolph, spent parts of their childhood playing freely in the expansive grounds, perhaps exploring hidden nooks or rolling down grassy slopes. The strong connection to Hungary infused the palace and its gardens with a unique character. Unlike the purely Austrian imperial residences, Godolo embodied the spirit of the dual monarchy, a place where Hungarian culture and the Habsburg presence intertwined. It became a beloved symbol of this union, particularly for Sissi, who was fascinated by Hungarian language and culture, and who felt a deep bond with its people. After the collapse of the Austro-Hungarian monarchy, Godolo Palace and its gardens faced periods of neglect and varying uses. However, in recent decades, significant efforts have been made to restore its former glory, particularly focusing on the parts associated with its imperial residence. Walking through the expansive park today, one can almost hear the soft thud of Sissi's horse galloping past, or imagine Franz Joseph enjoying a quiet afternoon stroll, finding a rare moment of peace in Hungary's imperial dream. The gardens of Godolo remain a poignant reminder of a personal connection between an empress and a land beautifully preserved in the sweeping landscapes and charming retreats she cherished.